The Noble Mahayana Sutra, The Question of Maitreya on the Eight Qualities. Translated by Karen Lilienberg and Erlich Pogel, under the patronage and supervision of 84,000, translating the words of the Buddha. Narrated by Ken D'Amico. Homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Thus have I heard at one time. The Blessed One was staying in Rajagriha on Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great Sangha of 1,250 monks and 10,000 bodhisattvas. The Blessed One, surrounded by a retinue of many hundreds of thousands, surveyed those before him and taught the Dharma. At that time, the Bodhisattva Maitreya was present among that very retinue. He rose from his seat, draped his shawl over one shoulder, set his right knee on the ground, and paid homage with palms joined toward the Blessed One. He then said to the Blessed One, "Would the Blessed One please, if he has time, answer a certain question that I would like to put to the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha?" The Blessed One answered the Bodhisattva Maitreya, "Maitreya, you may put to the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, whatever question you wish. What I shall say in response to your question will cause you to rejoice." So, since the Blessed One had given him the opportunity, the Bodhisattva Maitreya asked the Blessed One, "Blessed One, how many qualities do Bodhisattva Mahasattvas need to possess in order to become irreversibly set on supreme and perfect enlightenment without regressing in the slightest, and to gain special attainments, to vanquish negative and hostile influences, and, while engaging in the conduct of a bodhisattva, to realize the intrinsic characteristics of all phenomena just as they are, and therefore be indefatigable in samsara? And as well as having that indefatigable mind, through the pristine awareness that does not rely on anything else, to awaken quickly to supreme, perfect enlightenment and become a Buddha?" The Blessed One replied to the Bodhisattva Maitreya, "Very good, Maitreya. It is good that you have thought to ask the Tathagata a question on this point. Therefore, Maitreya, listen well and retain in your mind what I shall explain to you." "Blessed One, please do so," said the Bodhisattva Maitreya, and listened as the Blessed One had instructed him. The Blessed One, in turn, continued, "Maitreya, if bodhisattvas possess 8 qualities, they will become irreversibly set on supreme and perfect enlightenment, without regressing in the slightest, and will gain special attainments. They will vanquish negative and hostile influences, and while engaging in the conduct of a bodhisattva, they will realize the intrinsic characteristics of all phenomena just as they are, and therefore be indefatigable in samsara. And as well as having that indefatigable mind, through the pristine awareness that does not rely on anything else, they will quickly awaken to supreme, perfect enlightenment and become a Buddha." What are those 8 qualities? Well, Maitreya, they are for Bodhisattva Mahasattvas to have excellent intention, excellent application, excellent giving, skill in dedicating merit, excellent loving kindness, excellent compassion, skill in methods, and emancipation in the perfection of wisdom. Maitreya, how do such bodhisattvas have excellent intention? Well, Maitreya, such bodhisattva mahasattvas, whether they hear praises or slander of the Buddha, have the intention to attain supreme, perfect enlightenment. Whether they hear praises or slander of the Dharma, they have the intention to attain supreme, perfect enlightenment. Whether they hear praises or slander of the Sangha, they have the intention to attain supreme, perfect enlightenment. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattvas have excellent intention. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattvas have excellent application? Well, Maitreya, such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas renounce killing, theft, sexual misconduct, falsehood, slander, harsh speech, and gossip. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have excellent application. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattvas have excellent giving? Well, Maitreya, such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas give clothes, food, bedding, curative medicines, and necessities to ascetics, Brahmins, poor people, and beggars. Their generosity then becomes pure. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattvas have excellent giving. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattvas have skill in dedicating merit? Well, Maitreya, such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas dedicate all the accumulations of roots of virtue that they have created through their body, speech, and mind to supreme, perfect enlightenment. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have skill in dedicating merit. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattvas have excellent loving-kindness? Well, Maitreya, such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas' physical actions are kind, their verbal actions are kind, and their mental actions are kind. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have excellent loving-kindness. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattvas have excellent compassion? Well, Maitreya, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas' physical actions are without malice, their verbal actions are without malice, and their mental actions are without malice. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattvas have excellent compassion. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have skill in their methods? Well, Maitreya, such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas are skilled in conventional truth. They are skilled in the absolute truth, and they are skilled in both. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have skill in their methods. Maitreya, how do such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have emancipation in the perfection of wisdom? Well, Maitreya, such Bodhisattva Mahasattvas correctly train as follows. They think, because one thing exists, another one arises. Because this is born, that is born. Conditioned by ignorance, karmic formations come into being. Conditioned by karmic formations, consciousness comes into being. Conditioned by consciousness, name and form come into being. Conditioned by name and form, the 6 sources of perception come into being. Conditioned by the 6 sources of perception, contact comes into being. Conditioned by contact, feeling comes into being. Conditioned by feeling, craving comes into being. Conditioned by craving, grasping comes into being. Conditioned by grasping, existence comes into being. Conditioned by existence, birth comes into being. Conditioned by birth, aging and death come into being, as well as misery, lamentations, suffering, unhappiness, and agitation. That is how this great heap of suffering comes into being. Without these conditions, it does not come into being. When these conditions cease to exist, it also ceases. When ignorance ceases, karmic formations cease. When karmic formations cease, consciousness ceases. When consciousness ceases, name and form cease. When name and form cease, the 6 sources of perception cease. When the 6 sources of perception cease, contact ceases. When contact ceases, feeling ceases. When feeling ceases, craving ceases. When craving ceases, grasping ceases. When grasping ceases, existence ceases. When existence ceases, birth ceases. When birth ceases, aging, death, misery, lamentations, suffering, unhappiness, and agitation cease. This is how this great heap of suffering ceases. This, Maitreya, is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have emancipation in the perfection of wisdom. Maitreya, if Bodhisattva Mahasattvas possess those 8 qualities, they will become irreversibly set on supreme and perfect enlightenment without regressing in the slightest, and will gain special attainments. They will vanquish negative and hostile influences, and while engaging in the conduct of a bodhisattva, they will realize the intrinsic characteristics of all phenomena just as they are, and therefore be indefatigable in samsara. And as well as having that indefatigable mind, through the pristine awareness that does not rely on anything else, they will quickly awaken to supreme, perfect enlightenment and become a Buddha. After the Blessed One had spoken these words, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya, together with the monks, as well as all the worlds of gods and men, demigods and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised what the Blessed One had said. This concludes the question of Maitreya on the 8 qualities, the 42nd section of the Noble Dharma Discourse, the great heap of jewels in 100,000 sections.